Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Team and the Football Podcast. All right, lads?
Thomas, Simon, how are we?
Hi, boys. How we doing?
All good, all good. We've just had the most ridiculous conversation where when we were talking about the Wall of Hate, Thomas said to Darren, if next time you write anything for me, can you make sure it's in Arial?
And
if that isn't a sign of where the talent is in this podcast, I just don't know.
And off the podcast, I was just threatened. I was just threatened by Thomas. If I got the introduction wrong, he's going to throw me through a window.
I don't know how he's going to do that because of COVID and social distancing.
Yeah, I was dying to be brave, but I bottled it.
Yeah, you'd know to find a way, Darren.
All right, so how are we all doing? We all good?
Yeah, you know, getting used to things now, aren't we? It's just the norm.
It's just bizarre that it's dragging out so far, isn't it? The being isolated.
Yeah, and it looks though it's going to go on till what, Easter, we think?
Yeah, probably. And maybe even longer.
I was fully expecting us to be out by February, middle of February. Once they'd done the most vulnerable, I thought schools would be open. They'll open some shops. They'll open, some kind of travel. But it looks like, someone come out and said, don't book a holiday this summer.
Yeah.
The other day, so I don't know.
I think there's a little bit of, there's a lot of scaremongering going on. And because of how poorly the governments have handled the communication side of it, I watched the briefing today and it was shockingly bad. He came on and basically talked about the fact that we'd hit 100,000 deaths and then didn't answer any question directly at all. So it was a pointless briefing. We didn't learn nothing at all. And I think that's the way they're going now. There's no real direct answers to any questions. The only thing I have seen, which was a direct answer, was I seen an interview with, who's the guy who knocked Chris Whitty, who's the other fella? Patrick Vallance.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with him the other day, which was really good. But other than that, I haven't seen any direct answers. And then Priti Patel was up in the comments today. I just can't handle that woman. She is the most insincere politician, which sounds ridiculous because they're all insincere, I've ever seen.
But she's not even pretty.
We'll pack it up and send it to her.
That's why we have to write the Wall of Hate.
We have to think about it beforehand. Yeah, no, it's not good. I think the problem is that they don't really know what to say at this stage. They won't be direct and say this is what we have to do to get ourselves out of it. He's and ahhing now saying, well, we're still waiting to look at the numbers on the 15th. But then at the same time, today said, in one of the answers to the questions, we'll give 2 weeks notice to schools. Well, schools are meant to go back on the 22nd of February.
Yeah. And my school's just being, all special schools are getting the COVID vaccination for staff if they want to.
Oh, excellent.
Special schools, because they're, it's difficult for them to distance, some of the children who are difficult, bless them. So the vaccine's getting, and that's the phase 1. And then I think other schools will be in phase or stage 2. So
yours a special school, Darren, because you work there.
I'm very special.
He is special in very different ways, but he is
many
very,
different
very
ways.
Special. Yeah. He's special to us, Daz. Yeah, it's hopefully we'll get out of it. I mean, we had a conversation this week on the football chat group about whether we'll ever get back to football in the amateur levels. What are you thinking, Thomas?
I think we'll play. I think just a few. I think we're looking 3 or 4 weeks. I think we'll go back to tier 3. I don't think there's none of this getting out of tiers for a long while, but I think we'll just shift from total lockdown to tier 3. Outside sports will be able to play again, and I think if we're lucky and the league's quite brave and says, listen, we're going to go later into the summer. We're going to let you finish all your divisions. I think we'll get through. And we've got a good chance of winning our division this year. So hopefully they let us play on.
See, I disagree, Thomas. I don't think it'll happen. I think the tier system didn't really work last time because people just went into different tiers whenever they wanted to. Over the Christmas, Liverpool were in tier 3, and we had lots of people visiting from tier 4. That didn't help. So I just think they need to do it properly this time. And if we're going to have lockdown till March, then see where we're at.
Hang on, your expectations are pretty high there, Daz. You want them to do it properly? Are you kidding me?
I know. Simon, I'm not letting Boris retire me from football.
So here's the problem: is that he's already said we're going back into tiers. So I think it'll happen. The question is how they then manage.
No, that means we're all going to start crying again.
Yeah, I think that they'll just go nationally. They'll just go. We're all in Tier 4 now, aren't we? We're all on full lockdown. I think he'll naturally just say, "Okay, we're going to ease up restrictions slightly, so some shops can open. We're going to Tier 3." That's what will happen.
Yeah. Well,
who knows? Yeah. Let's. I've got a magic 8-ball here. Should we just?
That'd probably do a better job than the decision making of our government, mate. No doubt at all. Okay, so what we thought we'd do today is talk a bit about what's going on in the world of football, but we wanted to start with some comments, and we've got loads of good interaction going on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, loads of new people interacting as well, which is really good. And I've got some comments from regular listeners. The first one is from Paul Bruns.
All right.
And this was in relation to our team of 2020. So he said, I'm pulling Simon and Thomas up over the Henderson inclusion. Don't get it at all. Stats-wise, he's not in anything. Interceptions, tackles, passes, assists. Not having him included because he is good at organising and barking orders. Grealish's stats are off the scale. Simon saying he thought he was overrated last season, ? Again, last season he was brilliant. Stats off the scale for chances created, single-handedly kept Villa up. I'd argue the point there. Kane has to be up top. He's brilliant. 18 goals last season, 10 goals, 11 assists already this season. Top player. Other than that, I have no arguments.
I like him. I've always liked him.
Yeah. Brunsy's a top football fan as well, and he watches all. He's a little bit bitter because he's a blue, but
a little bit.
Well, I don't know. He's calling out players like Grealish, and he's not trying to put DCL in or anything like that, is he? I mean, that is less bitter than most. But yeah, he watches a lot of football, and he's always got opinions, always gives us comments. So we appreciate it. That was a hard one, actually, the team of the year, because we could have gone either way with that, especially with things like Kane up top.
Yeah, it's difficult, but I do like his comments about Henderson. I think you two picked him because you like shouting and giving orders. I don't know why you saw that.
Because he's great. How about that?
It's because it's Thomas's favourite pastime, shouting and giving orders. Okay, next up, in response to the Best Manager podcast on the Great Football Debate, two hilarious responses. So just 1 and 2 word responses. The first one was from just some random person on YouTube, and the comment was Solskjaer.
Yeah, I knew that. Actually, I knew that was from.
Who was it?
Solskjaer.
Yeah. Under a pseudonym. Yeah. And then the next one came from Sean Mccuskell, Jock Stein.
Okay. Because he did well in the Premiership.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a good one. And then we got another comment from someone who comments quite regular now, actually. I don't know who they are, but their username is AYNZ72 on YouTube. But I think they're the Villa fan as well.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
So it was back to this conversation about the managers and the argument that for Klopp, for Guardiola and Mourinho, Thomas was obviously saying that they'd been handed massive budgets. So the comment was, big clubs will always have quality players, so no manager who is employed will need to build a team from the ground up. So it's not an argument. On that basis, on building from the ground up, you would have to say Brian Clough, which I thought was a good one to throw in, although we weren't looking back. Would be the all-time greatest manager. Alex Ferguson at Aberdeen won cups and titles before Man U. Klopp's next move will be the German national team if the job comes up.
And that's interesting, that.
But I think everyone knows that that's where he wants to go eventually. The question is when that happens.
June.
Why is it interesting, Darren?
It's interesting because I think at the moment, obviously, we're going to have a conversation about Liverpool over the next 3 hours. But I just think it's interesting. He wouldn't go to another club first. He'd maybe go to a German national side and then back to a club.
Where would you go, though? I think that's the problem he's got now. What's the next? Anyway, we'll get onto that later. So the next one is from Sean Mccuskell again. Obviously, he's the 5th Partington. 6th Partington. God, I was
I'll do the maths. No, you were forgetting me.
Sorry, Nicola. Yeah, actually, yeah. So he said, for me, Klopp is the best of the three as he has made players world class with what it was available. I agree with Angry Thomas.
You see, that's the big issue, that, because he's an angry guy as well.
He is.
So-
Yeah. He's brilliant to come and watch the football, though.
yeah.
I mean, I'm very tame compared to him.
Yeah. All right, so the last one, which is going to lead us into the conversation, is another extension of the Partington family.
Recently, can I just say on that? I always try and distance myself from people.
You are now. Okay, so this came from Joey Holmes, and it was a comment on Facebook, which then prompted a whole load of interaction and maybe part of this conversation today. Said, never thought I would say this, but Klopp has been found out, and his reluctance to buy anyone in the window is the reason we are struggling. So obviously, you've got lots of different opinions. So what we thought we'd do is talk a bit about what's been going on with Liverpool, because however you look at it, we're not where we were last year. We're not where we would have expected to be. And there are multiple reasons for that. But I also think that there are some fundamental issues with the team that are worth discussing. So what was your take on the Klopp was found out, Darren, given that you're an impartial fan?
Okay, so I didn't like the shout, to be honest with you. I think someone who has delivered the league last year has to be given the freedom of Anfield, in my opinion. And yeah, he didn't go through a bad spell, you would argue, for the last 2 or 3 years. This is his first real, you would argue, his bad spell. I like Klopp. I like Klopp a lot. I like his views on the game. I like what he tries to do with his players. I like what he does off the pitch. I think there's a bigger issue here than just saying, "Oh, Klopp didn't buy anybody." I think the issue is more about the ownership and whether they're willing to commit the money that Klopp wants. I tried to be diplomatic on Facebook, and then all Liverpool fans jumped in. But I do think it's just because for the last 2 months, maybe 6 to 8 games, Liverpool haven't quite been there. Normally in a team, you have 1 or 2 players off form. Liverpool have about 6 or 7. You'd argue maybe 8 players who are off form at the moment. That rarely happens, but it's happened. And what you're seeing now is they played better against United in the Cup. They scored 2 goals. They still don't look great. I think the fullbacks aren't going on as much because I think they've got no security at the back, so they're holding back a little bit more than normally. And I think Klopp's trying to fit players into positions that maybe they aren't ready for. I think the young lad at the back gets a lot of criticism. I don't know why. I think he hasn't got that mature centre-half next alongside him who can maybe coach him through games like I did with Thomas.
You mean tell him what to do?
Well, yeah, but I do think I think Liverpool now have got like sort of 1 or 2 little internal issues, like Wijnaldum not signing a new contract and possibly going in the summer to Barcelona. Salah, is he going in the summer as well? Possibly. There's rumours about that. And so it's the first real mini, I don't want to call it a crisis, but wobble. I'm going to call it a mini wobble Liverpool have had for the last 2 or 3 years. And I think the issue, Klopp sort of hinted at things about owners and money and not quite doing what he wants to do. And I think that's the scandal.
Well, we'll come back to some of the specifics. What's your general take, Thomas?
On Joey's comment?
Yeah, the comment that he's been found out.
It's just ridiculous. I'm holding back. I'd really like to say what I really feel, but this is going to go on YouTube. It's a ridiculous shout. So for the last 2.5 years, up until the last 6 or 8 weeks, we've been the best team in England. We're champions. We're former European champions, World Club champions till this week, I think. We've played outstanding, amazing football. And then for a shout like Klopp out or Klopp's being found out and all these people on Twitter with hashtagging Klopp out, I'm assuming that they're from rival fans because it's absolutely ridiculous. There's load of mitigating circumstances all come together sort of to where we've got today. We've had major injuries early in the season. We couldn't replace them. We didn't have the players in the squad to replace them. We've had players that have been off form for a long time. Trent, for example, I think Trent's been our poorest player. for the whole season, if I'm being honest. Now, I heard he had COVID earlier in pre-season. Whether he's got long COVID and he's being affected by it still, we don't know. So what's happening behind closed doors, we don't know. We also don't know how. I know these players are getting out and they are getting out and traveling the country to play football, but they're being locked up in hotels away from their families to make sure that they're safe to be able to play. And I know they paid mega amounts of money, but this is it could be a bigger, massive issue on them. The mental health may be affected. There's all different kinds of things. And then going back to the playing side, Klopp can't buy a centre half because the club are running a really tight ship. The financials are really affected by COVID. Everyone in the league, there's not many clubs buying players, and Liverpool aren't just going to go out there and spend 38-40 million on the targets that Klopp wants in this current financial market because they haven't got the money.
Yeah, that was a very specific number, 38 or 40 million.
Because that's what it's been touted for, that guy from RB Leipzig, that Upacoma or whatever his name is. I can't pronounce it.
Let's get into some of the specifics, because I think we can address each point. So firstly, this is where they stand since just before Christmas. We drew at West Brom. We drew with Newcastle. We got beat by Southampton. We beat Villa. We drew with United. We got beat by Burnley, and then we got beat by United. So it's not looking good. And the concerning things are the area where actually we've looked strongest in recent weeks has been at the back, where we've had makeshift teams until I think we put Reese Williams in a position where he couldn't win. And he was up against pace, which is probably not where his strength lies. And, we talked about it just before the game. We knew it was coming, and he got found out to a certain extent that his pace isn't there. Everyone knew that. It wasn't like that was news to anyone. But given the personnel that we've got, I think that had to happen. But we've looked solid when we've had people like Fabinho and Henderson playing there. Surprisingly solid. However, the bit which has been probably disappointing people most is our forwards have just not been firing at all. And the way we won the league last year and the Champions League the year before is we were fluid, we were fast, we broke on teams really quickly, we broke as a team, and the driving force behind our attacks was our fullbacks. And we know the fullbacks are struggling at the moment. You mentioned Trent earlier. I don't think Robbo is at his best at the moment either, although certainly not in the position that Trent is in. But there also feels like there's something not right. And it might just be confidence. It might just be they've done so well for so long. And even when they weren't playing well, they were scraping wins. Now, all of a sudden, they can't buy a goal. And they just didn't look themselves for weeks. And maybe the confidence has gone. But there's something going on behind closed doors that has come about this week, which I think is something for us to focus on talking about, because I don't think it's just Liverpool. Klopp came out and said, he's not the person who is making the decisions on whether we buy players or not. What he said is, and he clarified this, is he nominates players that he wants to buy. He makes recommendations, but it's up to the owners to put their hand in the pocket to make that purchase. I think that's different than the majority of clubs. I think the majority of big clubs work in the same way. But there's something there, because you can see how annoyed he's getting whenever he's getting asked a question. So either he's getting annoyed because you heard the answer there, or he's getting annoyed because something's going on. I think there's something underlying there that we're missing, because I don't think all of us, I certainly don't blame Klopp for what's happening. I certainly don't think that the manager is at fault all of a sudden and all of a sudden is a bad manager. But there is something going on that we don't know about. So that's the feeling I get.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think he's asked for a centre-half. I think that he's identified targets that are willing to come to us that they probably could get at a price, and the club is saying we're not going to buy them. And just going back on another point that you just made about confidence and the way we've been playing, I actually think it's the defence that is our root cause to our goal scoring and all our issues. I think that, I know we've got players off form, but if you watch all the games, especially lately, we're too worried about getting caught on the break by the opposition that our midfield are 10 yards deeper than they'd normally play when we've got a Van Dijk or a Gomez or someone with a bit of pace in the back to cover them. So, like you were saying about the fullbacks, they're not pushing on as much. I don't think Robinson's not pushing on as much, but certainly Trent was still pushing on in the game. And it's in that space where we tend to get caught out over his head, and then whoever's playing in that right centre-half slot. So what's been happening is we've had Wijnaldum and Thiago, who's been playing the last few games, dropping further and further deeper. And then by the time we've got up the pitch and start putting pressure on the opposition, they have just dropped back into two lines of four. The back four is inside the area. The midfield is 5 yards outside the area. And we just can't break it down because they've had time to set up. The wingers then become fullbacks. The fullbacks drop in and make extra centre halves. And it's a hit and hope. So we're not getting the ball in quick enough because we're not up the pitch quick enough. And it's all because we're worried about being caught out of the back because we haven't got a regular defence there. And I think looking at it, it's a massive issue. And that's why he needs a defender.
But do you not think so, Daz? Haven't we been talking for a while, haven't we, about this whole issue with Trent getting caught in over his head into the corner, and it's been happening even when we won the Champions League. It was happening, so it's been happening for 2 years. And what's been happening is Gomez has been pulling him out, and whoever's been playing alongside him has been pulling him out. Now that Gomez isn't there, and Van Dijk isn't there, he's being found out defensively, isn't he?
Yeah, I also think Liverpool at the moment, when Liverpool were on form for the last 18 months or so, they moved the ball quick. They moved the ball quick, and teams couldn't get close to them because the press was a high press. Everyone pressed together as a group. What you're seeing now with Liverpool, it's quite pedestrian. It's very lethargic. There's no energy there that they had previously. There's no pace there that they had previously. And I think teams are almost saying, okay, have the ball, because you're not moving it as quick as we think you can. So we'll just sit here. And Thomas, you're right. What annoys me is fans come out and say, you just parked the bus. Yeah, that's because actually when you go into any football match, you've got a point. And for some teams, I'm not saying it's attractive and right in the game, but some teams are happy to get a point against Liverpool. The West Broms of this team, the Newcastles of the league, they're willing to get a point. It's up to Liverpool to move the ball quick, and they're not. They're not moving the ball. They're not running in between the lines. They're not making those connections that they were making previously because something is not right. Thiago in midfield, I think, is class on the ball. I think he can pass the ball, his control, everything about him, I love. The one thing he hasn't got, and he needs someone with him, is legs. And I think if he had Henderson in there or Fabinho, who could run and do his running for him, that would then get that press back on. Because actually, once Thiago and one or two others go, they can't get back. And so there is that gap. And there is leaving Liverpool a bit vulnerable at times. But I think you're looking at the defence. Yes, I agree at times, the defence. But you have to adapt your game and change things up a bit to play the personnel you've got. How many times, Thomas, do we turn up on a Saturday and we go, right, we've got 11, 12, 13 players. We don't play this pass today. Let's look at trying to play this pass. But I do think Liverpool now are too pedestrian when they play.
I love the fact that you're comparing the South to Liverpool. Thanks, Daz. We appreciate that. I'm
obviously the Van Dijk.
I actually think that you've pointed something out that I think is fundamental to our issues. So I agree, Thomas. We are worried about what's going on at the back, which then is affecting how we move forward. It's natural,
definitely,
because you're too defensive in your approach to the game, and then also the gap between the midfield and the forwards is ridiculous at times as well, which then doesn't help us. And because our fullbacks are not playing so well, they're not up with the forwards either. But I think we're missing Fabinho in midfield.
Yeah,
and because what happens is that when you play Firmino in the false 10 role, if you like, it's not really a 10 role, but it's in there somewhere. Then what you'll tend to play is a holding midfielder, two midfielders in behind Firmino, and then Firmino playing in the 10 role. But we don't have that holding midfielder. That holding midfielder was Fabinho. So now it switches up between, is it Thiago? Is it Wijnaldum? Is it Henderson? And Henderson can play that role all day. But actually, that's not the way we've been playing Henderson recently either. So I think you've got a lack of fluidity to the team. And it's driven by the fact that we've changed it up because we haven't got the personnel. And that one role, which is absolutely pivotal. Think about the teams like Arsenal when they were the Invincibles. They had Petit holding in the midfield. They had Vieira holding in the midfield. And then when Liverpool were doing so well, they had Fabinho holding in the midfield. It's really important that you have that player. Kante for Chelsea when Chelsea were doing so well. It's really important you have that player. When you don't have it, the rest of it breaks down around it. And I think it for people like Thiago, it takes him out of his stride because he's having to play both roles. He's playing the quarterback, and then he's also having to play the attacking midfielder.
The thing for me there, Simon, is when you have a defensive midfield like that, the full-backs know they can go because he just slots in then, and the two centre-halves cover, and then you've got your three at the back still, more or less, give or take a triangle or two. But I do think what's happening is because you haven't got that, the full-backs aren't going. And so where before they were creating space and they were getting the ball wide, they were putting those lovely balls, they're not doing it. I also think confidence is massive because I watched the game the other night and both fullbacks had opportunities to put the ball in first time. They were taking an extra touch. They were being too safe. And Liverpool for the last 18 months haven't been safe.
They've got best example, Daz. I've got the best example of that. In two games,
do we go to the live stream now?
in 2 games, right? In 2 games, we've had corners in the last dying seconds, and we've passed it short and gone back to the midfielder. So we've come out, we've put it back into the midfielder in the middle of the park instead of getting in the box. What is that?
Yeah.
You know, we've got players who can put a ball on a sixpence, who can put a ball anywhere they want in the box. Yet we're not going to do that, even though we've got players who can finish as well. Yeah. I think that's a really odd mentality. Why aren't you doing all you can? Or we have a free kick 30 yards out with 5 minutes to go, or 35 yards out, and we're playing it short. What are we doing? There's a point at which that agency needs to take over. I think the same applies right across the pitch. We'll get the ball with a couple of minutes to go at the back, and instead of putting the pressure on, we'll play the ball short. It'll go into midfield. It'll go from midfield back to the back four again, and then it'll go back again, and then we'll do nothing with it, and we'll lose an opportunity to get the ball in the box. I think if you're going to put people like Origi on, who is limited in his ability, but might be able to get you a goal if you put the ball in the box, why aren't you putting the ball in the box? Because he's not going to do anything else for you.
Yeah.
No, quite right.
Yeah, some good points. But I think overall, the confidence issue is certainly affecting us at the moment. And also, because there's a lot of negative talk around the club about the performances and about the results. You can see it in Klopp. Klopp's not the happy, jovial self. You don't know whether that's rubbing off on him and he's feeling the pressure because obviously we want to be up there challenging. And I don't think, to be honest, that we're too far away from getting a bit of form and going on a run again. I think everyone's up and down at the moment. Everyone's really affected. You know, look at City. Aguero's out with COVID now. They're struggling for goals. Everyone's the same. It's just that we've just hit a really bad patch.
They are, but we've hit a bad patch when some of the others are picking up, and I think that's almost making it feel worse. So City have started to find a bit of form, even though they are having their own problems. Man United are looking really good. Leicester have picked up again, and it puts us in a position where Aston Villa are doing a little bit better.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah.
And by the way, West Ham are now fourth.
Yeah.
I mean, how crazy is that?
Yeah, just on the point, Thomas, I think someone said it before about spending money. There's not been much money being spent or transferred in January. I think Villa have signed someone today who I'm not sure about for 15 million with 2 or 3 million add-ons. But there's not many Premier League clubs who've gone out and splashed the cash. Now, whether that happens in the next couple of days, but I do think, so Villa have had American owners, and what American owners generally did at Villa and 1 or 2 other clubs is, they come in, they promise the year, spend quite a bit of money. When they get some success, they tend to just, right, we're here now. And they don't realise, maybe I'm being naive here, that you've got to keep that going by buying players, buy quality players. Because O'Neill was at Villa and we got his 6th and he wanted Randy Lane, he wanted more money off Randy Lane to take us to the next level. And Villa at the time were quite good. And Lane said, no, sell players.
I think it's a naivety, though, isn't it, Daz? Is it a naivety to what it costs to keep a Premier League team running?
Yeah, I just think it needs. I don't know. I just worry about the American owners if they suddenly go, do you know what? we're not putting any more money in at the moment. You need to sell players. That's the
Villa
danger.
or
That's
Liverpool?
basically what they're doing now, aren't they?
Yeah.
You're talking about Villa or Liverpool, Darren?
Liverpool.
Okay.
When we had an American owner at Villa, we had Randy Lerner, who'd come from the Cleveland Browns, and he pumped a lot of money to begin with. And we had like Stuart Downing, Ashley Young, we had Barry, we had a good side, and we were Martin O'Neill was there. We were looking for top six, and then he went and asked for him. That's when Martin O'Neill left. He said, "Well, I can't do anything," and he left.
I just think it's everything's related to COVID, Darren. At the moment, I think Liverpool financials were absolutely superb. They were self-sustained. They were investing, borrowing off FSG, building the new training ground, building new stands at the ground, investing heavily in players, and not going into a lot of debt. And the debt that they were borrowing off FSG was really cheap debt that they've paid back. The main standards are now paid for. The training ground will be paid for in a few years. And then COVID hits, and then it's like, shit, all money around the world is dead. No one's got any money to spend. No one's earning money. They're not earning money. They've got no fans coming in. Big companies are all affected. Local governments, national governments,
Thomas,
they're all affected by not having no money. And football's the same.
Yeah, and I get that, but everyone's in the same boat. That doesn't tell you why they're now fifth or sixth or whatever they are. You're either. I know what you. Sorry, go on.
It explains if you look at other people's issues as well, because everyone's had them.
Yeah, but what I'm saying as well, though, is like Liverpool haven't got beat on every game because they haven't got a centre half. Liverpool haven't scored enough goals.
Yeah.
So when you see 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, the defence has done the job.
Darren, I'm sure Liverpool are the leading goal scorers in the league.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying, Thomas, if you look at the three games, they drew 0-0 against.
I totally agree with what you're saying in the sense they haven't scored recently, but I think overall and up to the point where we got to January transfer window opening, we all know Liverpool need a centre half. I think we were still possibly top at that time. If they'd gone out in that first week and signed a defender, the lift that would have gave the club, the pressure would have been off at the back a little bit. We could have moved Fabinho into midfield if Matip was fit. We wouldn't have to play Henderson in centre defence. It would have been a massive uplift.
Thomas,
in a case like that.
No, but I get that. But you've had chances to win games.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So what I'm saying is like if you'd have took those chances, you'd have been 6 to 7 points better off.
Well, I think that's about what you think is causing the problems as well. And I think what we were talking about before about whether it's affecting the team because you haven't got that centre half, which is then stopping how fluid you are in attack. But I agree. If you look actually in some of the games we've played really well and we've had loads of the ball, I think our problem has come trying to break down that two banks of four. And actually, it's not two banks of four because they're bringing in a forward to make it a bank of four and a bank of five. And I think we're getting to a point where last year, what would have happened was we would have played decent football in and around the midfield, but we'd have broke really quickly, got the ball to Robbo and Trent. They'd have got the ball in the box and we'd have taken our chances. We haven't taken our chances. You look at some of the games, we've had so many chances during the game and just haven't taken them. Firmino was being off the boil totally until actually against United the other day.
Second half.
He had like 15, 20 minutes where he was brilliant and run the game, and then he dropped off again. He hasn't been at the races at all. Salah hasn't been playing great, although he scored a couple of goals against United. I think that'll help him. Mane has not been as good. His decision-making hasn't been as great, but again, he's had to defend a little bit more, which I don't think has really helped. But I think there's something that comes back to confidence that will, once they get the confidence, once they get a win, get a couple of goals, then I actually think it'll feel very different because they'll convert some of those chances.
On Thursday,
and then the pressure comes off the defence. Say again?
On Thursday when we whack Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a big game for us now.
Massive game.
But look, this is how the league looks now. And you're right, Thomas, we are top goal scorers, but we're on 37. We scored 7 goals against Palace. So it's a little bit skewed. Although so is Villa's because they scored 7 goals.
Yeah, but ours were all great goals.
They were decent goals. All right, so where's the way the league looks, which you never would have thought maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. United at the top on 40 points. City are second on 39 points, and they've both played 19 games. Oh, actually, and then Leicester have played 19 games as well, and they're third on 38 points. So there's 2 points between third and first, all on the same number of games. Interesting. West Ham are now fourth, played 20 games and are on 35 points. So we're 3 points away. And then Liverpool are on 34 points and have played 19 games. So they've only got a game in hand on West Ham. The bit that worries me is that if Everton win their games in hand, Everton are in seventh on 32 points, but have only played 17 games. If they win their games in hand, Everton would go on to 38 points and be in fourth.
One of them's against Villa as well. We've got 2 games in hand, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, so Tottenham are in sixth. They played 18 and are on 33 points. Villa have got 2 games in hand and are on 29 points. I mean, Villa could go up to 35 points, which would be above Liverpool.
Yeah, so at the end of this week, really, we could go down to 9th to 10th, couldn't we?
I think somewhere around the 8th mark. I don't think we could go that far because Southampton have played 19 games.
But I do think that Tottenham game is a must win for Liverpool just to keep them within the shout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that's the next question. The next question is, given how many points that we dropped in the past, I don't know, 5 league games, we've dropped 12 points. So do we think we can still win it from this position?
I'm going to say no.
We predicted that Liverpool would win the league. Do we still think they can win it from this position, Thomas?
Of course we're going to win it. I've got no doubts. I think...
Okay, we know you're going to say that, but give us a reasonable...
Hang on, you need to take his rose-tinted glasses off first.
Yeah. No, I believe that we will sign some kind of defensive cover this week. I know that it's going to be really difficult to win it without signing a defender, or if the rumours, I don't know if they're just Twitter rumours, but Van Dijk is miles ahead of schedule and is due back sometime in February. If he is, then fabulous, we've got a chance. If we don't sign a defender, I don't think we've got a chance, if I'm being honest. It's all about whether or not that happens. Going forward and the midfield, I think it's just a matter of time before it clicks. I think Thiago, being able to play Henderson in there alongside Thiago will free up Thiago to be a bit more creative on the ball and maybe push forward a little bit. The forwards, I thought they looked great against Man United. I thought there was 20 minutes, like you said, with Firmino was superb. And then it's just all about defence. And if Trent can sort of get out of this slump that he's in, he makes a lot of our goals. He's our creative. He gives so many assists. Robinson, I think, has been ticking over okay. I think we've got a good chance. I don't think there's a better, minus the defence problem, I don't think there's a better squad other than City's. And City's
Did you say Robertson's been tickling over?
Ticking over, I said.
Do you know what? I think I go along with the majority of what you just said. So I agree. I think if we sign a decent centre-half or Van Dijk comes back very quickly, then we're still in with a shout because it's so tight at the top. But if we don't sign a centre-half and Van Dijk doesn't come back early in February, I can't see us getting back from where we are. And that's not because I don't think we'll fight. It's not because I don't think we'll get back to some level of form. But we've given ourselves an absolute mountain to climb. You've got to keep the faith as a fan. The reality is you never know what's going to happen. But it's going to be tough between now and the end of the year. If we win it from this position, this will be amazing.
So, if Liverpool don't finish top 4, and I'm not saying they're not going to, but if, financially, that's going to be a massive blow to them. Massive blow. What will Klopp's attitude be towards the owners at that point then, or the owners towards Klopp?
So I don't think that's a reality. But we have to accept that we're now in 5th. So what would happen if we finished outside the top 4? I don't think it changes anything, Daz. I think it'll change things in terms of finances, because we won't have as much money coming in. But what you would expect is by the time we get to the end of the season and we're going into next season, then things would get back to some level of normality. So you would have an influx of money coming in. So then to a certain extent, you would see an impact, but the impact would be maybe limited to the following year when you'd really feel it. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I think
it was just a question because obviously things are turning around. Fair
question where we are now.
I think things are turning so quick. And if you have a good 2 weeks and you play 4 or 5 games, You know, it's massive.
Yeah.
And if Liverpool get beat against Tottenham on Thursday, is it, Thomas?
Yes.
I think you're looking and thinking they need to pick up quite quickly and get back to some sort of form quite quickly. Because other teams are picking up. Yeah, other teams are picking up. Leicester are looking good. City are looking good. United are grinding results out and looking good. It's an interesting one.
Last one on the financials. I think the money that if Liverpool went to make the top four, the money that they would lose, they'd be stupid not to invest in a defender, because if that's what going to take to get in the top four or to even win the league, the amount of money that they'd lose by not making the Champions League, wouldn't they be stupid not to spend that money now? Because they're going to lose maybe double how much they'd spend on by not being there. Or is that like the wrong way of thinking?
No, I'd agree, Thomas. I think you've got to. We often see lots of clubs in relegation taking gambles on players to try and keep them up because the money is so much to that club. I think Liverpool need to do the same. I think they need to go make a statement. They need something to lift the club at the moment, because actually there's a great cloud over it for whatever reason, and they need an influx of someone or something to get them moving again. Otherwise, I worry that. Well, I don't worry because I've support Villa, but I worry for Liverpool if they don't. And I'm not saying this, but if they don't make the top four, that's a massive, massive hit for them.
All right, let me give you two things, and I want 60 seconds, no more. So on the first one, Thomas, what's your thoughts on Reese Williams?
He's too slow. I think he looks like a rabbit in headlights at times. So when he plays centre half, every time I see him with the ball, he passes it to the nearest player. I think he's a young kid. He's took a load of abuse on social media, which is uncalled for. He didn't mean to make them mistakes, or he didn't mean to be that slow in a race. It's just unfortunate. And I think he's been thrust in there by Klopp, even if Matip is fit, because he's worried about playing 2 games in a week, to show the owners, are we going to go the whole season with this young kid as backup? Because that's all we've got.
Yeah. Okay. And I seen some of that crap on Twitter. It's ridiculous. He is a young kid. Yeah. He's got to learn the game. I actually, Paul Formby was defending him on Twitter, saying he's young, he's got to play. What are you going to do? Not play him? So he goes back to a lower league team and tries to, and we try and give it a go there. I think the challenge is that we're in such a high-profile position. Throwing a centre half in like that with limited experience is difficult. If we were doing well and he's playing alongside Van Dijk, he'll be learning all day. I think playing alongside Fabinho, I just don't know whether that's happening. Fabinho just does the job and does it well. I don't think he is a leader like Van Dijk. I think Reese Williams will benefit massively if Van Dijk comes back and he gets to play alongside him. I think that'll make a big difference. But as it stands, he's not quite where we need him to be. But I think you're right. Maybe Klopp is making a point. Daz, one for you. Wijnaldum, you mentioned it earlier. Still hasn't signed a contract. Looks nailed on to now go, which would be massively disappointing. What's your take on that for Liverpool?
I think that's a bad mistake by Liverpool, personally. I think he's an excellent player. I think he's one of the best at what he does. Technically, he's very good, gets around the pitch well, can strike a ball. And to apparently, and I could be wrong here, he wants a 4-year deal. Liverpool only want to give him 3. I'd do everything I could to keep him, because even for now, I think he's a stable one for Liverpool in the midfield, because it's swapping and changing. I would definitely do everything I could to keep Wijnaldum at Liverpool Football Club.
Okay, so Thomas, you've got a slightly different take on this, haven't you? Because you have a different view on what's going on.
Yeah, so I believe that he's been offered more money to stay at Liverpool. Liverpool financially are in a better position than Barcelona. They're broke Barcelona at the moment. Things may change in the summer if Messi goes, because they pay him £500,000 a week or something like that. But Barca are in real financial trouble. Now, Liverpool are offering them more money over a shorter period of time, the 3 years, you're probably right, Darren, and Barca possibly will offer him 4 years. I just think that he wants to change the scenery. I think that the law of going to Spain and playing in another country and just having a different stamp on his football resume to say, well, I've played for Liverpool, I've won the league, I've won the Champions League, you know, I've played for Holland and I've played for Barcelona, where some of the great Dutch players have all graced. I think that's the reason for him going. It's not financial. And I think Liverpool have threw a load of money at him to say, listen, okay, we know that you're not one of the highest earners. You're not getting Van Dijk money, but we'll offer you this in between. And it's a lot more than what Barcelona want to pay him.
My issue is, I just think it's from a business point of view, it's poor. I think you should have either sold him last year and got money for him and then reinvested it. But to let him to go on a free, I think that's poor business personally.
I think they thought they could keep him. I agree.
There must be a point where you go, if he's not signed by this point, we've got to sell him.
Yeah, it happens so much though, doesn't it?
It does,
people
but also
till January. Some great players.
But also, it's like there's deals goes ahead in football all the time. Sign a 3-year contract, we'll let you go in the summer. Do you know what I mean? It happens all the time, and I just think
I am surprised because he's so influential and he's been so good for Liverpool for so long that you would think that they'd have done something to keep him at the club. But we'll see how that goes.
Okay. So sorry about that.
So the great thing is that we've just found out that Thomas's weekly salary is similar to Messi's. $500,000 per episode. I mean, that's about what we pay him, isn't it? That's to be the talent.
Yeah. And to be fair, he's now got his own changing room.
And rightly so, though. I deserve my own changing room
with a mirror with lights around it.
He's the Mariah Carey of us three.
All right, so let's move on from Liverpool. What I think is this season is going to get more and more interesting as it goes, and it's going to be if we make a comeback from this point and we get back on track, then it'll be a great year for the Reds. Okay,
and I won't be on the next podcast.
Yeah, you'll be off it again. All right, next one is Thomas's best mate, Fat Frank, got fired today.
Look at his little face, Simon. Look at his little face there. He's loving it.
From Chelsea. The bit that I enjoyed, so I haven't really got that much of an issue with Frank Lampard, but the bit that I enjoyed was Roman Abramovich coming out and giving statements and stuff and apologising. However, then we found out afterwards that they wouldn't even let him back into the training ground to say goodbye to the players. What's that all about?
It's just scandalous. The way Chelsea's run is a joke. In my opinion, I just think he just used it as a toy, like we're playing Championship Manager.
Yeah. But he's got that much money, he can't he?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm made up. I hate him.
You're not a fan, are you, mate?
I hate him. I hate Chelsea. I hate everything about them. Just hate them. I'm made up.
It doesn't come across, though, Thomas.
Doesn't it?
I've never noticed.
Yeah. Do you know what he's doing now? He's sat at home with his gravy boat. Drinking out of his gravy boat straight.
So I seen a comment today.
The Bisto boys.
I seen this today, right, on Instagram, and it's a picture of Frank Lampard scratching his head, and then it says, as if it's a quote from him. Yes, I'm gutted to have been sacked. So are my friends and family. When I got home, John said he was already there, comforting my wife Christine on the couch. Not sure how they heard, but they were both red-faced and breathless with emotion. Absolutely brilliant. So, all joking aside, what are Chelsea up to? So I don't think they've looked that bad in recent weeks. They've looked a bit better. I think Leicester was the nail in the coffin for them, but I don't think they've looked that bad. So why are they going down the same road that they go down every single year? So they invest in someone, they give them a load of money to spend, and then they fire them.
I look and I think someone's buying the players at Chelsea, like in many clubs now, but I don't think Frank's even going to them saying, I want these players. And I think what Frank did very well last year, because he was restricted on who he was buying, he was almost like a 12 months of grace. He couldn't do no wrong because he brought the young kids in and suddenly it was like, oh, actually, they're doing quite well. But to go and spend 240 plus million on players that I don't think actually are quite good enough. That Havertz, is it Havertz?
Havertz, yeah.
Havertz, Thomas, you'll know with the language. I've got a language barrier.
Yeah.
But Havertz, he wouldn't get a game in the Liverpool County combination. I don't see how he's an £80 million player. There's nothing about him that tells me he's worth £80 million player. His transfers have been very poor and haven't worked. Werner, not worked. one or two others. They've all been similar players he's bought, and there's no fight in the team. There's no steel about them. They're easy to have a go at times. There's no leadership. Apart from that, he's done a great job.
They're 10th now in the league. I mean, it's not good, is it?
It's horrific.
But the other point is, it's the end of January now. So what was the point? Do it either beginning of January or do it at the end of the season.
Well, let's look at their results, right? So they got beat by Leicester at Leicester 2-0. They beat Fulham at Fulham. They got beat by Man City at Chelsea, which I think was about... Although I didn't think they looked that bad against Leicester, but they drew against Villa. They got beat by Arsenal. They beat West Ham, got beat by Wolves, got beat by Everton, beat Leeds, and drew with Spurs. I mean, since the end of November, it's not been looking good, that's it. But I do think they've been playing a little bit better.
The problem is Frank didn't really know his best 11. And there was no consistency in the play. And I think that doesn't help. You need to build up relationships in the game. You need to build up partnerships, whether it's the centre-half, the full-backs, whoever, midfield. He chop and change too much. Now, I don't know whether, again, behind the scenes, his hands are tied. I don't know, but I just didn't think that they had the continuity there they had the previous year when he was restricted to bringing players in. And I think if you probably looked, I haven't got the stats in front of me. I think last season, you wouldn't have had many changes in the team. This year, I think every week there was 5 or 6.
Well, but as you were saying, he was forced to play the kids, wasn't he? And the kids can play every week. And the kids can play without fear because... You know, they're young and they don't know any better. And there was some quality football from last year from the kids, but it just hasn't knitted together. We did say this at the beginning of the season. We did say he would struggle to make all those top class players fit into a team and for it to work well. The thing is, when it works well, it looks fantastic, but generally it doesn't work that well.
I've got to agree with something Darren said earlier in the year, and it kills me to say it, but they haven't really got an identity under Frank. And tactically, he chopped and changed too much, so they weren't able to build up momentum and know where each other was playing. And then due to injuries or whatnot, he made so many changes constantly that players were finding it difficult to get into a bit of rhythm and build up relationships, individual relationships across the pitch. So that was the big issue, which is great. I'm absolutely delighted because... If I haven't said it enough, I hate Chelsea.
All right. So what's the... I think there was a lot of chat today about who was coming in. And if I remember rightly, it's just flashed up just before. I only glanced at it to say that they've got a new manager. What's his name? Thomas? Darren?
Go on, Darren. Have a go.
It's something beginning with F, isn't it?
Is it Tuchel?
It's Tuchel. Thomas Touchel.
Oh,
well,
Touchel.
So why is it spelled Tuchel then?
Because he's German.
Okay, that explains everything.
Well, you know how good I am with languages.
You're a linguistic genius. So he was the ex-PSG manager.
And Dortmund, when Liverpool beat them 4-3 in that dramatic comeback where we scored 2 in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, decent manager. What do you think he'll do at Chelsea?
I think he'll be sacked within 18 months. Let's
get that on record. I mean, to be fair, one of our predictions was that Frank Lampard would be sacked in 2021. So we were right there. So you think, Daz, that in 22, he will be gone and someone else will come in?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Claudio Ranieri?
I heard, now I'm not one for to spread rumours, as you know, but my contacts in the game are telling me Everton's manager's going back.
Oh, Ancelotti going back to Chelsea?
Oh.
They're not, but I thought I'd shake things up a bit.
All right.
And also, Darren's got no contacts either, so he knows straight away.
No, but he does that thing, doesn't he, when he does that with his ear?
Hold on.
His ear. Yeah, hang on. We've got something coming in.
Yeah, Solskjaer has just said.
So I actually think he's a decent manager. He had Dortmund set up well, played well against Liverpool, and we beat them. But he looks like a decent manager. And also, he's used to dealing with some superstars like he has done at PSG. So he may be able to do something with Chelsea. But certainly, you're talking about time before they get back to doing anything. And it's another year written off for them, isn't it?
He's a very attacking manager. Well, all their eggs will be in the basket of getting in the top 4 now, won't it, from where they are?
Yeah.
He's a poor man's Andre Villas-Boas.
You love him.
Is he Portuguese, by the way?
He is Portuguese, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up is the ridiculous decision for Man City's goal against Villa, the offside goal, which apparently today the referees have now been given instruction that that should not have been a goal. Well, by the letter of the law, it was a fair, legitimate goal, apparently, but now it wouldn't be, given the fact that the interpretation has been changed. How are you feeling about that, Daz?
Because the letter was signed by Man City. So that was the issue.
Guardiola.
Guardiola signed it. And listen, you know what? We probably might have got beaten the game anyway, but we were doing so well and the momentum shifted in the game. I just think it's just a poor rule or a poor interpretation of the rule. If you're gaining a advantage by coming from an offside position that quick, that soon, without it being another phase of play. If Mings had got it, passed it, and then the other player had got it, fair enough. But he hadn't. And I just think it was
What was
poor.
he doing? No, I mean...
he should have headed it, without a doubt. And this is the issue I have. He should have headed it straight away and defended it. He was trying to be a smart arse, and it failed, and it backfired massively. And he's got that in him at times. I've said this before on the show. Our best centre-half's Konza. I think Konza is a brilliant player.
Yeah, he's doing well this year, isn't he?
He's doing fantastic. He reads the game well, gets his head on it, gets blocks in. But Mings takes all the plaudits, which is fine by me, because no one will come in for Konza, especially Liverpool.
We're not coming in for Mings either.
You can have him. But I do think it's the right decision. The interpretation has to change. And if Villa have done something to benefit other clubs, then that's the type of club we are.
Oh, God. It makes me sick.
Oh, my God. You do my head in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it helps clarify things, then it's probably a positive. But obviously, Villa took the brunt of that.
Yeah, they should just give us a point or two.
Okay, so next question. I know Thomas is going to want to comment on this. This came in from someone on Facebook. Who's next to go in terms of managers? And the comment was Cabbage Head.
Steve Bruce.
So he's under pressure at the moment, isn't he? The Newcastle fans are not happy. They're not playing great football. What are your thoughts on Steve Bruce?
Can I just say,
Don't say, oh, he's doing a great job and I really like him.
No, they lauded Benitez for the fabulous job that he did over them 2 seasons and keeping them in the Premiership, and they just loved him. But Steve Bruce currently has got, for the same amount of games, has got a better record in both seasons than Benitez. So, and he's signed some of them players. Do you know what? Unless he's given a lot of money to improve Newcastle, they are where they are. And Newcastle should be happy that they've got a manager that knows how to keep teams in the league. So I know it's not great. And if he was my manager, I'd probably be frustrated because I'm always thinking, well, they're going to find 100 million to sign a few players, aren't they? But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen when you've got Mccuskell as your owner. So I think you've got to be realistic and look, if we get rid of him to try and play better football, are we staying in the league? And what's the priority? What do we want to do?
Yeah. So
I think he is doing an all right job. And his football style isn't great, but he will do enough and knows how to stay in the league. So, Newcastle fans, make that decision. Do you want to play good football and take your chance with someone that will possibly take you down?
Do you think there's anyone else that goes before him now? I've got one for you. And I don't like it, but Scott Parker. At some stage, Fulham have got to do something, haven't they? They've got to do something. And I really like Scott Parker, and I think it'd be a poor decision. But you can almost see that coming.
The issue I have with that one, Si, is that have they done enough to spend enough money to give them a chance to stay up?
I don't think so.
Or, no, I don't. So I just think whether they're going to stick with him to get them back up into the Premier League because he did it before.
Maybe.
And it's one of them where if they get rid of him now, and it looks like they're going to go down anyway, then they're almost have to rebuild a new manager to give him more money. Scott Parker will stay at Fulham. If they build a new stadium as well, or a new side to the stadium, if they go down, which it looks like they will, he'll have the experience of doing what he did last year and this year to bring them hopefully back up with a similar squad, because they can do it. And I think if I was Fulham, you'd almost, I hate to say it, but accept what's going on, because you haven't spent enough to be in that position where you've got a chance to stay up. On regarding to Newcastle, I think Bruce will go in the summer no matter what, whether he keeps them up or not. He'll go in the summer, because I think Mike Ashley will just want to change things. He gets too much flack off Bruce.
Probably
Bruce
not a bad thing for Bruce, though, is it?
Yeah, no, but Bruce was on a hide to nothing at Newcastle because they didn't want him. So, I actually think there's three clubs worse than Newcastle at the moment. It could change because games are coming thick and fast. Who will go down? They might finish fourth from bottom.
Yeah, Brighton are fourth from bottom at the moment. This team are really struggling. Sheffield United. What's his name? The manager,
Chris Wilder.
I don't think they'll fire him, but they're struggling at the moment. They're stuck to the bottom. They've only got 5 points, and they've leaked 32 goals.
And again, there'll be a stable club where they'll go down, get the parachute payment or whatever it is, and they'll be in the playoffs next season at least.
They'll be gutted to go down, or won't they?
They will, but they haven't, as a club, they wouldn't have invested an awful lot of money.
No.
And so you're not overspending, because look at the teams that have done that in the past and they got to the Championship and struggled and got to the Division 1. Sunderland being a prime example.
Yeah.
And I think clubs like Sheffield United are almost knowing the limitations as a club. Last year was brilliant for them, and they're going to have those spikes throughout their what's the word I'm looking for? Throughout the club's history.
Well,
yeah. Throughout the club history, they're going to have those spikes where they do very, very, very well. But generally, they'll just level out, and they'll end up between the Championship and the Premier League. Most times they'll spend the 2 years in the Premier League, go down to Championship for 3 or 4 years, come back up. That's what they are going to be, a yo-yo club, unless something drastically happens.
Well, I think with regards to Fulham, I thought they just turned the corner. I think they're playing a lot better football. They're challenging. They were great against United last week. Very unlucky in the game. And if they carry on in that vein of form, they've got a chance. And while they're still fighting and doing well for the manager, I can't see him being sacked. And I agree with what you're saying, Darren, about Steve Bruce. The summer will be the right time to get rid of a manager, rather than there's no point in them getting rid of the manager in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
Not for Newcastle.
Let's have a look at because I think your point is spot on about Fulham. Let's have a look at the fixtures that are coming up, and we'll also predict what's our scores for the weekend. So we're not going to predict this week because there's games going on now. Southampton are 1-1 with Arsenal currently, and City are beating West Brom 2-0. Actually, let me just refresh that and see if there's been any more goals. City are 3-0 up now.
Refresh it again, Si. See if there's another one.
Southampton and Arsenal are still 1-1. Okay, so tomorrow, Burnley, Aston Villa. I think that's a game that if Villa can win that'd be a massive result for them, given the way Burnley have been playing recently. Then we've got Chelsea Wolves. I think that could be a really good game. I put money on Chelsea to win that. I think Wolves are looking all right. They didn't look great against Chorley, was it? In the FA Cup. 1-0 with an absolute whopper of a goal.
Yeah, brilliant.
But they didn't look great. Brighton are playing Fulham at Brighton, which is like a relegation battle, 6-pointer already, because they are right next to each other in the league. Everton are playing Leicester, which I think will be a good game. And then United are playing Sheffield United. This is all tomorrow, which I think that's actually a decent run of fixtures tomorrow.
Yeah, it is.
And then Liverpool, obviously, at Tottenham on Thursday. Must-win game for Liverpool, surely.
Yeah.
3-0.
Do you think?
All right, Thomas, save yourself some for Tottenham.
Ooh.
So I think we could actually get a couple of goals there, but I'd definitely go for 2-0 Liverpool.
Hang on then. So Simon.
No, we're not predicting that one, Daz.
Why not?
In the weekends.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, this is just a friendly. What do you think, Daz?
I think Tottenham will win that 3-2.
You know what? We've supported you all year. We supported you when Villa was trying to stay up, And this is what you do to us.
And
Kicking us when
listen,
we're down.
I'll support Liverpool when they're trying to stay up. Don't you? Honestly, you mark my words.
Aaron, we supported you when you cheated by turning the Wi-Fi off for the goal line technology. We supported you when you should be relegated.
Thomas, you can't talk about Wi-Fi. I think you fitted Villa Parks, didn't you?
All right, so let's quickly go through the games on the weekend to predict them. So the first one is Everton against Newcastle at Everton. I'll go with a 2-0 win for Everton.
Thomas?
Draw 1-0.
I'm going to go 3-1 Everton.
Ooh, okay. Next game is Crystal Palace Wolves at Crystal Palace. That's a difficult one now. What do you reckon, Thomas?
I think 2-1 Wolves.
Okay, I'm going to go the other way. 2-1 Crystal Palace.
I think draw 1-1.
Ooh, okay. Then Man City, Sheffield United. Tell you what, these are two tough games for Sheffield United. They've got Man United and City within the space of 4 days. At Man City, 4-0 Man City, I'd say.
1-1.
He loves it. He loves it.
He loves a score draw, doesn't he?
He does.
Simon,
I've gone 4-0 as well.
I'm just praying. 1-1.
Next game is West Brom against Fulham. Again, another 6-pointer. I'd go for Fulham to win that away 1-0.
Okay.
Thomas?
I think 1-0 Fulham, yeah.
I'm going to go 1-1.
Okay. Arsenal Man United is the 5:30 game on Sky Sports at Arsenal.
I think United will win that 3-1.
Yeah, I'll go 2-1 United.
And I'm going to go 1-0 Arsenal.
Okay. Next game, last game on Saturday is Southampton against your boys, Daz, at Southampton.
Sorry, Thomas, what did you go for? 1-0 Arsenal?
Yeah.
Sorry, Villa.
1-0 to the Arsenal. It's the worst song ever.
How does it go?
Okay, so Southampton Villa at Southampton.
I'm going to put the boys in. I think 2-1 Villa.
I almost want to say
easy.
Villa will get beat.
2-0 Southampton.
He's a little... honestly, it's a good job I don't swear. I did. Do you know what? The support I've given you, I drove around your car when Liverpool won the Champions League and all sorts, and this is how you treat me. All right, no wonder our friendship's gone.
I'm going to go 1-0 Southampton. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Simon, no! You family stick together. That's it. I've had enough of this podcast.
All right, so then we're on to Sunday. Chelsea versus Burnley is the first game. What do you reckon, Daz? At Chelsea?
I think Chelsea will win that 2-0.
Okay, I will go Chelsea. Oh, no, actually, do you know what? I'm going to go score draw on that 2-2.
Ooh.
Thomas?
3-1 Chelsea.
Okay. Sunday, again, is Leicester versus Leeds at Leicester. Oh, that'll be a game. High-scoring game, this, surely. 3-2 Leicester.
Oh, okay. I'm going to go 3-1 Leicester. 3-1 Leicester.
Thomas? Leicester Leeds. Now, you're on mute, mate.
3-2 Leicester.
I'm not even editing that out. That was brilliant. All right.
That was the best thing he said all day.
That was inspired, that, Thomas. Okay, then we're on to West Ham, Liverpool at West Ham. I'm going to go for 3-0 Liverpool.
I'm going 3-1.
West Ham.
Okay.
3-1 Liverpool.
I'm going to go... That was a dramatic pause that my acting skills come off there.
Yeah, that doesn't go down that well on the podcast, to be honest with you, because no one can see it.
I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool.
Okay. Ooh. So then the last game on Sunday is Brighton versus Tottenham at Brighton. Do you know what? I've got a feeling Brighton are going to do them, 1-0. 1-0 Brighton.
That's a big shout.
It is, yeah.
I'm going to say 2-1 Brighton. I fancy Brighton as well.
I think 2-0 Spurs.
Brilliant.
With Glenn Hoddle getting the winner.
Yeah, the only way Spurs are winning. Okay, so that's the weekend's fixtures. So I actually think that's a decent weekend of football as well. There's some really good games there.
Do you know what? Considering lockdown, I've never watched so much football in all my life.
Yeah, although obviously with Thomas's DIY disasters over the weekend, there wasn't much football getting watched in his house.
Thomas?
I haven't seen any football. I've had to pull floors up and floorboards and get a new floor and decorating and stuff. I'm literally up the wall. I haven't watched any football apart from Liverpool.
Sorry to hear that.
And
literally, he's flustered, isn't he? You can see it.
Yeah, he looks angry tonight more than ever.
I am.
Yeah, you know why he's angry? Because there's people in the background, so he's kicking off.
Yeah.
It's that look. It's the look, isn't it?
All right. Let's
people in the background winding me up.
That's what they're there for, mate. That's what they're meant to do. All right, let's go on to something that we haven't done for a while, at least a couple of weeks. A Thomas Morris Wall of Hate. So obviously, there's so much to talk about at the moment. There's so many things that will be winding him up. Liverpool not doing so well.
If he says B&Q, we're struggling here.
Yeah. United doing better. DIY disasters. This literally could be a Wall of Hate against B&Q. Or it could be about the builder that put his extension on.
Oh my God, I swear to God.
Yeah, we don't want you to talk about it.
It's just terrible. I'm not going on about it because I'm fuming.
All right, so who are you mostly hating this week, Tom?
So this is a special Wall of Hate this week, as it goes to somebody who was already on the Wall of Hate. This person deserves his second brick on the famous wall because he has an ability only him and Steve Bruce have. They both take good players and make them look bang average. I mean, he's signed some absolute beauties that most big teams would want to buy, and he's destroyed them. This week, I'm mostly hating the gravy eating, the massive fat Frank Lampard.
It had to be.
So he's regarded as a new crop of coaches destined for greatness, but unfortunately, he couldn't coach his way out of a wet paper bag. To be honest, very disappointed with him. He had everything he ever wanted at a club when he signed his fat contract for Chelsea. His legendary status protected him for around 18 months, but soon enough, his so-called big money signings didn't work out, and Fat Frank was out the door quicker than a Vindaloo curry that goes through me. It does, honest. He manages to play a game of football with no tactical awareness. This is a big shout, but I have more tactical knowledge managing South Liverpool over 40s. So he plays quality players out of position to make way for his love child, Mason Mount. I hate that. I hate him. He has spent over 250 million on new players to make them closer to Liverpool and Man City. If closer means further away in 10th, then I think he's cracked it. The Muppet. He has an excuse after excuse for his teams not performing week in and week out. He's like that kid in school who had his homework eaten by the dog every week. He's an absolute clown. Some coaches look at themselves when things go wrong and change. The only time Fat Frank looked at himself was in the men's room mirror, and he only changed when he clashed what his wife was wearing. So for being a crap coach and being found out, Fat Frank Lampard, you are the only person to appear on my Wall of Hate twice.
Brilliant. I love it. Well done. So there's a couple of things I'm going to pick it up on there. So the first one is obviously the fact that you're comparing your coaching to Frank Lampard's.
Whoa, we're not. I'm up here and he's down here.
And then there's the second thing which really makes me laugh is the Vindaloo curry. Because the reality is, mate, we all know that you wouldn't go anywhere near a Vindaloo curry. Not with your taste buds.
Yeah.
Well,
genius. Yeah, it had to be Frank this week. Thomas couldn't have been happier when the news come in that Fat Frank was getting sacked. In fact, you're the first person that texted it. Yeah, I hadn't even seen what was going on, and then I seen that text from you.
I was made up, honestly. I hate Chelsea. there's so many teams around the world that you can just absolutely hate for whatever reason. But Chelsea have always been that team for me. Honestly, I will literally cry if we get beat by Chelsea. It's that bad. I really hate them. The weekend, I was really, really down. My DIY disaster. I've just put in tons of hours in trying to get this bedroom fixed. We got beat by United. I felt like jumping out the window. And he just lifted me spirits knowing Frank had got sacked.
So strangely enough, I spoke to my dad after we got beat by Burnley, and he was like, "Oh, I was really worried about Thomas. He was not happy." And so he said you were in the bedroom on your own, just shouting at yourself.
I was.
Genius.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's. I actually think whatever his name is, it's not Tuchel. Tuchel.
Thomas Touchel.
Thomas Touchel. I think he'll do well, but the worse Chelsea do, the better. We'd like to see them stay in 10th or below if they possibly could.
Look at the smile. I've got so much stress in my life at the minute. No, I'm just slagged off Frank.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it.
This is therapy for some people, Si.
Yeah, it's therapy for me as well. Okay, so before we wrap up, Daz, any final thoughts?
Klopp out.
You and Joey Holmes just hanging out, shouting Klopp out.
No, I love the fact that it's close to Premier League this year. All the plaudits rightly went to Liverpool last year, but this year it's exciting. It's good. It's close. Within 2 or 3 weeks, the top 2 or 3 changes. Hope when the Champions League kick in, it might change again for some of those teams because of the squads and stuff. So it's an exciting time, and plus Villa are actually playing well. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, they look good. Thomas,
Klopp out.
I'm gonna burst you. I think there's 5 days left in the transfer window. I think we've got 5 days left. I'm just really hoping that Liverpool can do a bit of business, maybe get a couple of fringe players out, get a bit of money in, sign a half-decent centre-half of some type. And then I think things will slowly click back into gear, and I think we'll improve and get back up there and challenge. So that's me for the next 5 days, hoping that Liverpool do a bit of business. Yeah,
I think it'd be nice if we could. I would love them to have gone and bought Connor Cody, but obviously that's such a big move that if that was ever going to happen, it'd probably happen in the summer. And let's see where we stand in the summer. But I'd love them to go and buy someone like him. There's a load more as well you could possibly bring in. But one of the things I wanted to mention was something that Thomas brings up a lot of the time. At the moment, we're in another lockdown. We have been for a while, and things don't look great. It looks like they're going to be banning travel, or more or less banning travel for the foreseeable future. Looks like we're going to be in some form of lockdown for the next couple of months. As we said earlier, hopefully we get to play a bit of football at some stage, but we don't know. People are suffering all around us, all around the world, but more importantly in our community, people are suffering. And we need to make sure that we support everyone. We need to make sure that we talk to each other. We need to make sure that you pick up the phone, have a conversation. It's difficult to see each other face to face unless you're passing in the park. But look out for each other. It's a tough time for everyone. Everyone is struggling. It's not just you that's dealing with these issues. It's everyone. Give people a bit of support. They definitely need it. The world is in a really strange place, and the more we can help each other out, the better. So we'll keep these coming. Hopefully it's entertaining. We'll get on to a more regular schedule now that Thomas has dealt with his DIY disaster, or his current DIY disaster.
I heard, Simon, we might be going live to Thomas during the DIY show.
Yeah.
He's
well, that's the
out.
other thing. People have been giving us crap because we haven't been doing the lives on Saturday. So maybe we'll do a live on Saturday. Have a bit of fun. Put Thomas under a bit of pressure because we know he loves them.
Thomas is going to be there in his DIY belt, in his hard hat,
and his dungarees. Whatever. You shake your head. All right, lads. Have a great rest of the week.
And you, mate, take it easy.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.